When we talk about the state of the city, I think we can generally agree that we have a lot of good things happening in Kelowna. We've been one of Canada's fastest growing census metropolitan areas since 2013. In that time, our city welcomed 8,000 new residents for today's total of just over 127,000 citizens. Continued growth over this length of time tells me that, as a city, we are managing to create a place that meets the economic and lifestyle needs that people from diverse backgrounds are looking for. We're still a great place to spend your retirement, and we're also becoming a great place to build a career and raise a family. The City of Kelowna and the Economic Development Commission co-funded an interesting research study last year. In it, we asked young professionals in major cities across Canada what would motivate them to move to a new community like Kelowna. Not surprisingly for young professionals, career opportunity is the most likely motivator for a relocation, although quality of life and cost of living are also big influences. As a council, we understand the need to be a catalyst for business, to contribute to a great quality of life, and to do what we can to encourage a variety of housing options. Those topics form a significant part of what council and our administration works on every day. I'm going to talk more in a few minutes about our Imagine Kelowna initiative, which you've probably heard about, and how we're creating a good atmosphere for business and community development. But I wanted to point out that our city is already changing as a community where everyone can find their place in Kelowna, including our most vulnerable residents. We are a growing and changing city, and that is good. But growth and change are not without their challenges, as you could probably imagine. To help us address our challenges and build on our strengths, Council established 10 strategic priorities to focus on as we manage our city's growing needs. In 2016, these focal points helped guide our decisions as we saw the impacts of growth on a variety of fronts. We had one of the strongest real estate markets and construction climates in many years. Airport passenger levels soared to record heights. Economic development expanded advancements in technology and new business investments. But for all this positive growth, we also saw record overdose deaths as a result of the fentanyl drug crisis and a rising homeless population. This is the first of those 10 strategic priorities I want to talk about, because homelessness has a profound effect on many of the things we want to be as a community. And I want to start here because it's going to take a whole community effort to solve this. This is not a new issue in Kelowna. We've had spikes in homelessness for decades, and the city has stuck to its traditional role of working with other levels of government to develop housing with great success. Then we moved into providing social development grants to community service agencies that help address social issues in the community. But the rise in homelessness across the country in recent years made us think about what else we could do as a municipality. Keeping in mind, as I mentioned, this is not something we can solve on our own. Our new social development manager, hired last year, has experience organizing approaches to homelessness from the local government level. Last week, she provided council and the community with more details about a homeless serving strategy. Over the next 16 months, her efforts will be focused on connecting with other agencies, listening and learning about the needs and best practices, and then working together to take action and implement an action plan. While no one individual or agency can solve these complex social issues on their own, we believe a dedicated city presence will contribute to the joint efforts of government, community groups, business and social agencies to address our community's issues and develop a coordinated strategic approach. This is similar to what we've seen in other communities like Medicine Hat, and the first time anything like this has been attempted in our city to this degree. By having someone on our staff work with community groups on a unified response to homelessness, we believe we can help address the most pressing needs and help put solutions in place. One good example of a solution growing out of a problem was the creation of a transitional storage pilot program at the Gospel Mission. This partnership between the city, BC Housing, and the Gospel Mission means those without a home can put their belongings in a safe place without needing to carry or cart them around all day. And here's the best news. In the first 3 months of the program, 7 people who got involved were connected with community services, and have now moved on into housing. And 17 people began using the shelter system for the first time after learning about and using the temporary storage program. It's a pretty simple solution that grew out of conversations on how to address a need. And that's what we will continue to do in 2017 and 2018, as the community plan comes together and it is implemented. At the same time, Kelowna also had BC's fourth highest number of illicit drug overdose deaths last year, with 48. More than double the number in 2015. I know the idea of safe consumption sites is not popular with everyone, and the city actually doesn't have an active role to play in those. But we are committed to working collaboratively with Interior Health on ways to reverse this trend, and with the federal and provincial governments on a national mental health strategy. A council priority that flows naturally out of our homelessness strategy is to create more housing diversity in Kelowna. We have a strong working relationship with BC Housing to continually partner on new projects for vulnerable residents. BC Housing funds nearly 30 developments in Kelowna that provide housing for families, seniors, and adults with disabilities. That's nearly 1,400 subsidized housing units. One recent addition to the mix was the new Gordon Apartments across from the Capri Shopping Centre. 44 more units of subsidized housing for people who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. Another BC Housing partnership was announced a couple of months ago and will be built on Drysdale Boulevard in Glenmore, which will provide family housing in 2017 for those looking for units large enough to accommodate a parent or parents with children. Other BC Housing projects have included Pleasantvale, Kelowna Friendship Society, Willowbridge, Now Canada, Touch Street Apartments, and Newgate Apartments. The City of Kelowna is also providing the land, as we have for most of those projects I just listed, for another partnership on city-owned property at the corner of Doyle and Bertram, in partnership with BC Housing and the Pathways Ability Society. With $850 million invested by the provincial government to BC Housing last year, we are also optimistic that there will be more good news announcements on the way in the coming months and years ahead. We've just come through one of the region's most active real estate and building markets in a decade. Population growth in the central Okanagan was the highest in Canada again in 2016, up 3.6%, and the sixth highest in Canada since 2011, as we've just recently found out. CMHC says new home construction in Kelowna was up 72% compared to 2015. This year closed, or 2016 closed, with more than 2,300 building permits, valued at nearly $540 million. That's up 16% and nearly $100 million more in value than the previous year. In this hot market, we continue to look at new and innovative ways to create much-needed rental and market housing for people on all income levels. We know this is an important area we need to improve on, and we are making progress. Initiatives like our Infill Challenge partnership with the Urban Development Institute will help densify some appropriate neighborhoods for these kinds of housing units. Construction was completed or started on more than 1,000 units of purpose-built rental housing in 2016. And last week, Council approved $420,000 in rental housing grants for 11 properties that will see another 1,070 rental units underway this year and next. This grant program was altered last year to increase the incentive funds for much-needed 2- and 3-bedroom units, because the vacancy rate for 3-bedroom units right now in our community is 0. The 2017 intake of applications for rental housing grants was the highest we've ever had, and shows the program is attractive to developers and is an effective way to get more rental properties built. In another move to create more affordable housing opportunities, Council approved a zoning change in December to allow secondary suites in all residential zones, with the exception of the Gallagher's Canyon and Eastwood neighborhoods due to infrastructure limitations there. This kind of housing diversity and increasing density in our urbanized centers contributes to our focus on building a healthy, safe, active, and inclusive city. As I've said, we want to be a catalyst to help address issues important for our future, and we want to build solutions through initiatives like our Healthy Cities strategic partnership with Interior Health and UBCO. These healthy, safe, active, and inclusive investments have short-term and long-term objectives. And in 2017, we'll hear more about Imagine Kelowna and the community's participation in shaping our community plan. Imagine Kelowna is the biggest long-range visioning project we've ever taken on. It takes into account all the current challenges we face and others we can anticipate as we continue to grow over the next few decades, and it will prepare us to address those challenges. Among the challenges we do anticipate is climate change, making our winters wetter and our summers drier, conditions that lead to the need to future-proof ourselves with adequate infrastructure. Last month, we participated in the province's value planning review of our local water systems, and the expert advice of the consulting engineer was that climate change is our single greatest unknown for future water supply. We're fortunate in Kelowna to have multiple sources of water, so we might be able to manage climate change in the decades ahead, but it's going to require more work and coordination moving forward. As we imagine a very different city 25 years from now, one of the biggest shifts will be economic. As our economy becomes more knowledge-based, we will need to address gaps in our labor force by attracting skilled, talented people through immigration and recruitment from other regions of Canada to meet our future economic needs. So those are the kinds of things we will take into account as we anticipate what our city will look like in 25 years. And we need everyone's perspective on how changes will be driven by shifts in technology, resources, demographics and governance, urban patterns, economic factors, and social factors, to name just a few of the global, local, and behavioral influences. Watch for opportunities to get involved and share your thoughts and concerns for the future, or go to imaginekelowna.ca and learn more about the next phase of work. One thing we definitely know our future will include is the continued expansion of multi-use paths and transit connections between our urban centers. We do this to make it easier for people to commute to work in healthy ways and relieve some of the congestion on our roads. With greater urban density and more people out enjoying the commercial areas and parks, that contributes to a greater feeling of public safety, another council priority. Funding approved in this year's budget gives us more bylaw enforcement staff and combined downtown foot patrols with the RCMP. We also work with the Kelowna RCMP to ensure they have the resources needed to target prolific offenders and maintain the law. Sometimes this focus on prolific offenders or strong counterattack programs result in higher arrest rates, which reflect a higher measurement of crime in the Central Okanagan. And it is true that preventable property crimes are quite high here. They're often related to those with addictions that need to be financed. But we also know that random personal or violent crimes against law-abiding citizens are quite rare. And most people understand that nearly all our residents, 94% of them in our most recent citizen survey, describe Kelowna as a safe place to live. The RCMP will move into the new Kelowna Police Services building later this year, improving efficiencies and better equipping officers to do their jobs more effectively. We have taken the approach that we want enforcement with a social conscience, and our bylaw enforcement officers are trained as an important resource contact with our homeless population. Through partnerships with the Ministry of Social Development and the Kelowna Gospel Mission, our bylaw officers make their rounds accompanied by an outreach worker. And for all the furor that resulted from a traffic bylaw update in November that extended the hours by which people blocking doorways or sidewalks in commercial areas can be asked to move, for all the uproar that followed, only one ticket has been issued. That's because bylaw enforcement and the RCMP respond to complaints about people blocking sidewalk access by asking them to move to a different location, while also ensuring the person is aware of the multiple resources available to them in our city. We are tackling this issue head-on, and we're not just sweeping it under the rug and not dealing with it. This kind of socially conscious enforcement has benefits for the entire community. First, just by helping people on the street stay safe. Then by keeping our commercial centers accessible for pedestrians and generally improving the public sense of safety on our streets and in our parks. As I've said many times, we're working to find that balance of needs. People need to feel safe in public, and the most vulnerable people on the street also need to be looked after. From that focus, we move to a different kind of balance, balancing our transportation network. That means making sure drivers, transit users, cyclists, and walkers all have good options for getting around Kelowna. One of the most exciting projects on the books is the Okanagan Rail Trail. That plan continues to make progress, linking Kelowna to the North Okanagan. This is 50 kilometers, as you're all aware, of the most beautiful cycling or walking terrain in British Columbia. The Okanagan Rail Trail Initiative is coordinating the community-driven fundraising effort, and the start of construction will be dependent on funds raised. Grant applications, if successful, will stretch this funding even further. South Perimeter Road planning is in progress, connecting Gordon Drive in the Mission to Stewart Road and down to Casorso Road, providing another way out of the Upper Mission. And strategic transit plans are in place for Kelowna Transit's 40th anniversary year, including technological advancements such as full installation of onboard security cameras and real-time bus location so that riders can see when the next bus is scheduled right on their phones. The Ethel Street Corridor continues in 2017, with the cycle tracks and road improvements extended from the highway to Sutherland Avenue, which takes the Ethel Corridor from Cawston to Sutherland and eventually to the Okanagan College campus. The three-way stop at Water Street and Doyle Avenue will become a roundabout. And another roundabout will be built at the busy and dangerous intersection of Lakeshore and Collette Roads. Transportation planning is important for many reasons, but one of the most vital is to help and connect vibrant urban centers. The more we do that, the more convenient it is for residents to explore the benefits of transit. Vibrant urban centers also need parking plans that work, and although it seems like there's never enough, there are a number of projects and strategies underway to accommodate commercial and residential parking needs. We know that parkland is important to our quality of life, and we continue to acquire property for future parks. This year, those plans include Phase 1 of Rowcliffe Park at Central Green, with a playground and walkways. Pickleball courts installed at Rutland Recreation Park, and off-leash dog beaches at the Sails, Poplar Point, and a temporary version at Lake Avenue. Other contributions to vibrant urban centers will include the completion of our Memorial Parkade, which was a $15 million project to add 566 much-needed parking spaces. The Library Parkade expansion, a $7 million project to add 200 new spots for now a total of almost 670 spots in the Library Parkade. And new parking strategies downtown and then in the hospital area are addressing long-standing concerns and establishing workable solutions. These investments are also an important component of Council's role as a catalyst for business. There are a lot of indicators that show Kelowna is an attractive place to start a business. The annual 2016 KPMG study found Kelowna to be the most cost-effective city in Western North America in which to operate a business. Business licenses were up more than 6% in 2016. We're the third largest technology hub in BC, and it's the fastest growing economic sector in Kelowna, attracting new businesses and investors. The tech sector's economic impact increased by 30% between 2013 and 2015 and added 1,000 jobs during that time. The Okanagan Centre for Innovation nearing completion, and last week, Council approved development plans for a 21,000 square foot building that includes a sound studio for the film industry and plans for a second building. This has been a 15-year effort to attract a large-scale film studio to this region and will help bolster the Okanagan's multi-million-dollar film industry. I attended a film and animation lunch meeting in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago, and as I said at Council last week, the industry's interest in Kelowna is real, and we will see an influx of film and animation come to our community as a result of the good work being done by the Economic Development Commission and the Okanagan Film Commission to promote the region. Not only that, but we now have an animation program at Okanagan College, and kudos to you, Jim. Thank you very much for that. The City of Kelowna works with public and private sector partners all the time to promote business opportunities, and we provide the EDC with 70% of the funds it receives from local government for economic development to continue moving these efforts forward. Kelowna International Airport continues to be an economic generator as it grows and develops land around YLW. Passenger traffic at our airport keeps soaring. It served 1.7 million passengers in 2016, almost 9% more than the year before. or nearly 140,000 additional travelers. And the Airport Master Plan, taking us to 2045, has a number of forward-looking priorities like European flights, parking improvements, and more affordable flights domestically that are on the horizon. Even things like YLW's Farm to Flight program contributes to Kelowna's cachet by giving passengers a taste of our agricultural gifts with them when they leave. Speaking of farms, protecting our agricultural land is a priority Council has done a lot of work on in the past year. We've tackled some difficult files where we've strived to balance the need to preserve the integrity of agricultural land while being practical about what farmers can achieve on smaller acreages or those being encroached upon by urbanization. And of course, everything we do comes down to the bottom line of how well we manage our financial resources. Everything begins with sound financial management to stretch limited resources as far as possible to deliver the services residents and visitors need and want. To do that, we are guided by principles to make sure we have sufficient financial resources available to us, and that we're pragmatic, transparent, and balanced in managing those resources and obligations. Here's how Kelowna stacks up tax-wise among BC cities with more than 75,000 residents. This is something I really want you to pay attention to, particularly when you hear complaints about your taxes going up. As the fastest growing region in Canada since 2013, Kelowna has faced a lot of pressure to accommodate thousands of new residents. But look where we stand up compared to other communities in the province. We're in the bottom third. I've mentioned some of those today: transportation network pressures, vulnerable population pressures, housing needs, increased service levels for fire and police protection. We're responsible for providing you with essential services like garbage collection, building inspections, wastewater, water if you're with the city's water utility, roads, traffic lights, and so on. The list is it's shocking sometimes. But what really gives us our identity as a community are the non-essential services we fund: the parks, skating rinks, pools, cultural services, and community programming. To do all these things citizens have told us they want, we continue to look for ways to offset taxes with different revenue-generating ideas. This year, we will take the next steps in our sponsorship and advertising strategy. Preliminary work done last year indicates the city can expect to eventually generate $1.2 million in new gross revenue annually, on top of the $750,000 we already generate this way. Streetlights currently account for 40% of the city's electric energy costs. The $3.9 million project to switch the LED streetlights this year will introduce a 15-year return on an investment of $13 million. Even cultural programs like Arts Fest extends funding through partnerships. Arts Fest is completing its third year in Kelowna, mentoring organizations to develop private sector sponsorships. The city's investment of $50,000 over the first 2 years of Arts Fest leveraged a return of $700,000. That is a great return on investment, about $14 for every dollar invested by the city. The City of Kelowna supports culture as a pillar of the community's vitality and quality of life. And this investment is just one example of how we do that. As you can see, partnering with public and private sector investors is a great way to reduce tax demand while meeting community expectations. That's how we build and operate major facilities like the Kelowna Art Gallery, Prospera Place, Capitol News Center, H2O Aquatic and Fitness Center, the Rotary Center for the Arts, and the Kelowna Marina, just to name a few. Again, it's balance, a word I've used a few times today, because that's what it comes down to: balancing investments we make today that will produce returns in the years ahead. I'm almost done, I promise. And while we're looking ahead, we also need to take care of day-to-day operations: snow removal, potholes, delivering clean water to city customers, fire department services, development services. A city with this kind of financial responsibility needs to constantly assess and prepare for our short and long-term needs. And I just mentioned water and short and long-term goals in the same breath, and that leads to Council's final strategic priority: working toward a citywide water system that provides clean, sustainable water to all of our residents. We participated in the province's review of local water systems in January, and we are awaiting the completion of that value planning report to determine next steps. The city's main focus in the short term is to maximize grant funding through the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund to assist with drinking water quality in southeast Kelowna and a sustainable supply and distribution of agricultural water to the South Okanagan Mission Irrigation District ratepayers. The City of Kelowna has submitted grant applications worth a total of $76 million to the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. So stay tuned on that, and we'll see where the process takes us in 2017. And I'm seeing now why MLA Thompson left. So we've touched a lot of topics here today, and I encourage you to check out our new and improved city website, Kelowna.ca, to learn more about what we're doing and how we're dealing with this period of unprecedented growth for our city. As our city begins its 112th year as an incorporated municipality, our country celebrates 150 years of Confederation. Canada's 150th anniversary will be a time when arts and culture take center stage. Through various grant programs, the City of Kelowna is supporting a wide range of unique cultural projects that will add to the local and national celebrations. We will be working in collaboration with First Nations organizations, Kelowna Art Gallery, celebrating its 40th year, Ballet Kelowna, the Okanagan Symphony Orchestra, Okanagan College, Kelowna Museums, and others to celebrate our national identity. And we know these tremendous organizations will do us all proud. The arts in Kelowna have risen to a new level over the past few years. And with each new performance or exhibit, the bar is pushed up even further. These are organizations worthy of our support and are a major reason why our city is flourishing. So thank you. Kelowna also supports the national challenge to Canadians to contribute 150 hours to volunteer activities in our city. We are proud to support Kelowna Community Resources as it works with like-minded stakeholders to inspire, engage, and recognize volunteers in the city. In collaboration with KCR and Volinspire, a Kelowna-based company whose community engagement platform was selected as the national platform for the 150 for 150 Volunteer Challenge, in collaboration with these great groups, the City of Kelowna is challenging residents to collectively contribute 150,000 volunteer hours in 2017. Not sure where to start? Hit Kelowna.ca and register with the 150 for 150 Volunteer Challenge and get connected with events and causes you care about and want to help this year. On that note, I will say thank you for listening, thank you for caring about the state of your city, and thank you for being involved in shaping Kelowna's future as a beautiful place to live and a great place to be involved for everyone. Thank you.